Imagine this. You're standing in a crowded room, and someone says something cruel about you loud enough for everyone to hear. Your chest tightens. Your face burns. Every part of you wants to defend yourself, or maybe walk away and never come back. We've all been there. Those moments when life corners us, when someone's words cut deep, or when circumstances pile up until we feel like we might break. But here's the paradox. Buddhism teaches that you don't have to avoid these moments to find peace. You can stand right in the middle of the storm and still remain untouched. So the question is, how do you do that? How do you stay calm when the world feels anything but calm? That's what we're about to uncover. And once you hear this, you may never look at life's challenges the same way again. Life will test you. It will put people in your path who misunderstand you, judge you, even insult you to your face. But here's the thing. What they say is not a mirror of your worth. It's a mirror of their own state of mind. The goal is not to silence the world. The goal is to master yourself. Because when you can turn an insult into an opportunity to practice patience, empathy, and self-control, you take back the power you've been giving away. Think about it. The next time someone lashes out, instead of reacting, pause and ask yourself, what is this moment here to teach me? Maybe it's teaching you restraint, maybe compassion. Maybe it's showing you that their pain is spilling over onto you and you don't have to drink it. This isn't about pretending words don't hurt. It's about realizing that the hurt doesn't have to stay. Your emotions are yours. They don't belong to the person who triggered them. Buddhist wisdom says, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. And when you really understand that, something shifts. You stop living as a reaction to other people, and you start living from your center. It's not easy. You'll want to snap back. You'll want to prove them wrong. But when you choose stillness over chaos, you create a kind of quiet strength most people will never know. And here's where it gets even more powerful. Because staying calm in the face of trouble doesn't just protect your peace, it transforms who you become. In a moment, we'll talk about the shift that turns life's hardest moments into the very fuel that builds your resilience, and why once you understand it, you'll see challenges in a completely different way. Principles 1. Turning an insult into a teacher. Let me tell you about a friend of mine, Mark. He's one of those people who's always calm. Until that one meeting at work. His boss made a sharp comment in front of the entire team. It wasn't constructive criticism, it was personal. You could see the room shift. Some people looked down at their notes. Others tried not to make eye contact. And there was Mark, sitting there, feeling the heat rise in his chest. Now, here's the twist. Mark didn't fire back. He didn't storm out. He took a slow breath and stayed quiet. Later, over coffee, I asked him, "How did you keep your cool?" And he said something that stuck with me ever since. I realized his words were about him, not about me. If I reacted, I'd be giving him my peace for free. That right there, that's the lesson most of us miss. When someone insults you, it's so easy to take the bait. Your mind rushes to defend, to prove them wrong, to push back harder. But here's what Buddhist wisdom reminds us. Their words are not a reflection of your worth. They're a reflection of their state of mind. Think of it like this. If a glass is filled with muddy water, when people are full of frustration, fear, or pain, that's what spills onto others. And if we can remember that in the moment right when the sting hits, we can choose something different. We can choose patience. We can choose compassion. This doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you respond from a place of strength, not from the fire they've thrown at you. Because the truth is, every insult, every rude comment is a training ground for your self-control. It's an invitation to ask, am I going to let them pull me into their storm, or will I invite them into my calm? Mark told me that moment became a turning point for him. Instead of carrying resentment for days, he left the meeting with his mind clear. No replaying the scene. No sleepless nights. Just peace. No one. And maybe you've had a moment like that too. A time when someone's words hit hard, but looking back, you see it taught you something about yourself. If you've ever turned a hurtful moment into a lesson, share it in the comments. You never know, your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who can hear an insult and still smile from a place that can't be touched.
Principles 2. Owning your emotional freedom. I want to tell you about Sarah. She's a single mom, works long hours, and still somehow makes it to every one of her son's soccer games. But one afternoon, after a rough day, a coworker said something that cut deep. It wasn't just about her work, it was about her. She told me later, it felt like they reached right inside my chest and twisted something. And I asked her, so, what happened next? She paused, smiled. I remembered I'm the one who decides how I feel, not them. That's the thing most of us forget. We hand people the keys to our emotions without even realizing it. Someone says something cruel, and suddenly we're angry, hurt, or doubting ourselves. But here's the truth, your feelings are yours. They don't belong to anyone else. When you stop letting other people's words dictate your emotional state, something amazing happens. You get your freedom back. It's like taking off a heavy backpack you didn't even know you were carrying. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. It's natural to react. We're wired to protect ourselves. But here's what Buddhist wisdom teaches us. There's a space between what happens to you and how you respond. And in that space, you have power. The moment Sarah realized this, she didn't need to win the argument. She didn't replay the conversation in her head all night. She didn't let someone else's cloudy sky block her sunlight. Think about it. If you let every passing opinion shake your peace, you'll be on an emotional roller coaster you didn't sign up for. But if you anchor your sense of self from within, you can walk through storms without losing your balance. And here's a question for you. When was the last time you caught yourself reacting instantly to someone's words and later wished you hadn't? If that's happened to you, drop a yes in the comments. You'll be surprised how many people have been there too. Because the ultimate freedom isn't having everyone like you. It's knowing you can be calm even when they don't. And when you master that, no one, not a boss, not a stranger, not even someone you love can take away the peace you've built inside. Principles 3. Finding strength in letting go. Let me tell you about Mark. On paper, he had it all: nice house, well-paying job, a shiny car in the driveway. But he told me something that stuck with me. I lived in constant fear of losing it. Every achievement felt like a glass tower, beautiful, but ready to shatter at the smallest earthquake. The promotion? He was afraid it wouldn't last. The car? Afraid someone would scratch it. The relationship? Afraid it would end. He was never at peace because his happiness was tied to things he couldn't truly control. One day, after months of stress, Mark started reading about the idea of detachment, not as in stop caring, but as in stop clinging. Buddhist wisdom calls it freeing yourself from attachment. It's the quiet confidence of knowing, I can enjoy this moment without needing it to stay forever. That shift changed him. He still worked hard. He still loved deeply. But he stopped gripping life so tightly that it hurt. Think about how much lighter you'd feel if your mood didn't swing with every up and down in life. If a win didn't make you overconfident and a loss didn't crush you. That balance, that inner steadiness comes from letting go of the need for life to always go your way. It's not easy. We're wired to hold on. But holding on too tightly is like clenching your fist around water. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips away. When Mark stopped depending on possessions or approval to define his worth, something surprising happened. He started appreciating them more. He could admire the car without fearing a scratch. He could love without the panic of, what if I lose them? And he could work without tying his identity to a title. Because real strength isn't about having more, it's about needing less. So, here's my question for you. What's one thing in your life you've been holding on to so tightly that maybe, just maybe, it's been holding you back? Drop it in the comments, even if you just say, I know what it is. You might inspire someone else to start their own letting go journey. When you release the grip, life has a way of flowing more naturally. And you realize peace was never in the things you held. It was in the open hands you choose to live with. Principles 4. The power of acceptance. I want to tell you about Sarah. She was a fighter. Not in the boxing ring, but in life. If something went wrong, she'd fight it. If life threw a curveball, she'd push harder, work longer, and wrestle reality into what she thought it should be. For a while, it worked. Until it didn't. One winter, Sarah's company downsized. She lost her job. She told me, I felt like the ground disappeared under my feet. For months, she replayed the same thoughts. This shouldn't have happened. They were wrong to let me go. I can't accept this. And the truth is, that resistance, it didn't change the fact that she was unemployed. It just drained the energy she needed to move forward. Then one morning, after weeks of sleepless nights, Sarah stumbled on a teaching from Buddhist philosophy. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. It hit her. She realized she was adding layers of suffering by refusing to accept reality as it was. Acceptance didn't mean she liked it. It didn't mean giving up. It meant stopping the inner war against something she couldn't change, and using that energy to focus on what she could change. So she started small. She updated her resume. She reached out to friends. She let herself feel the loss without letting it define her. And slowly, the heaviness lifted. Not because her situation changed overnight, but because she wasn't fighting reality anymore. Here's the thing. Life will hand us storms we didn't see coming. We can waste years wishing they never happened. Or we can stand in the rain, breathe, and decide what to do next. That's the quiet strength acceptance gives you. So I'll ask you, what's one thing in your life that you've been resisting, even though you can't change it? Drop it in the comments. You don't have to tell the full story, just name it. Sometimes, speaking it out loud is the first step to making peace with it. Remember, acceptance isn't surrender. It's the doorway to clarity. And clarity is what helps you take the right next step, without carrying the weight of, it shouldn't be this way. Principles 5. Every encounter is a lesson. I want to tell you about Michael. Michael used to believe that people were either good or bad. If someone hurt him, they were bad. If someone helped him, they were good. Simple, right? At least, that's what he thought. One year, Michael had a business partner. Let's call him James. At first, James seemed perfect. Smart, reliable, friendly. They built their startup together, shared late-night coffee runs, celebrated every small win. But 6 months in, Michael found out James had been hiding numbers, moving money around, not telling the whole truth. Michael felt betrayed. Not just in business, betrayed as a friend. For weeks, he played the same story in his head. How could he do this to me? I trusted him. This shouldn't have happened. And then, one evening, while scrolling online, he stumbled across a simple line from a Buddhist teaching. Every person is a teacher. Some teach you what to do. Others teach you what not to do. It hit him like a quiet thunder. What if James wasn't just the villain in his story? What if he was a teacher too? Not the kind you admire, but the kind who leaves a mark so deep you never forget the lesson. James taught Michael to pay attention, to read contracts carefully, to trust but verify. And strangely, once Michael saw it that way, the anger started to fade. Not because what James did was okay, but because Michael wasn't just a victim anymore, he was a student. You see, when we only label people as good or bad, we miss the deeper truth. Everyone who walks into our life, even for a moment, carries a message. The friend who lifts you up teaches you the power of kindness. The stranger who cuts you off in traffic teaches you patience. The boss who doesn't see your value teaches you to see it in yourself. This doesn't mean you have to keep toxic people close. It means you can take the lesson without carrying the poison. And here's the beauty of it. When you see life this way, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And you start asking, "What is this here to teach me?" That one shift can turn resentment into wisdom and pain into purpose. So I'll ask you right now, think about the last difficult person you encountered. Don't type their name in the comments, please don't do that. But if you feel like it, share the lesson they taught you. You might be surprised how many people here have learned something similar. Michael's story didn't end in bitterness. In fact, his next business was built on stronger foundations because of what happened. Today, he says, James was the most expensive teacher I ever had, but he was worth every penny. That's the thing about life. It will keep sending you the same kind of teacher until you learn the lesson. Once you do, you graduate to a new one. Every person is a chapter in your book. Some chapters make you laugh. Some break your heart. But every single one moves the story forward. When you read your life that way, there are no wasted encounters, only pages of wisdom waiting to be turned. 6. Emotions are only temporary. I want to tell you about Sarah. Sarah was the kind of person who felt everything deeply. If she was happy, she was on top of the world. If she was sad, it felt like the sadness would never end. One rainy Tuesday, she got a message from her boss. "We need to talk." That's all it said. Her heart started racing. Her palms went cold. A wave of panic rolled over her, and instantly, her mind started spinning. Am I getting fired? Did I mess up? She spent the next hour replaying every little mistake she might have made. Her chest felt tight. Her thoughts got darker and darker. But here's the thing. That meeting, it wasn't bad news at all. Her boss simply wanted her opinion on a new project. All that fear, all that anxiety, gone in seconds. Later, over coffee, a friend shared something that stuck with her. Emotions are like clouds. They drift in, they drift out, none of them stay forever. That night, Sarah lay in bed thinking about it. She realized she had spent so many years treating emotions like they were permanent. If she was angry, she thought, this is just who I am now. If she was lonely, she thought, I'll always feel this way. But the truth? Every emotion she'd ever felt had eventually faded. And that's where the real shift happened. The next time she felt anxiety, instead of drowning in it, she imagined herself sitting by a window, watching clouds pass by. Some clouds were light and fluffy. Some were dark and heavy. But all of them kept moving. She didn't try to chase the happy clouds or fight the stormy ones. She just watched. And strangely, the more she observed, the less power those emotions had over her. This is what Buddhist wisdom has been saying for centuries. We suffer most when we cling to emotions as if they define us. But emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. You can welcome them, learn from them, and still know they will leave. Think about it. How many times have you been certain a feeling would last forever, only to wake up one day and realize it's gone? Heartbreak that felt unbearable in your 20s is now just a memory. Anger that consumed you last week, you barely remember what sparked it. That's the nature of emotions, they flow. They are waves, not walls. And here's the part that changes everything. When you stop fighting your emotions, you also stop fearing them. If you know sadness will pass, you don't have to resist it. If you know joy will pass, you learn to savor it even more. So next time you feel overwhelmed, try this. Pause. Take a slow breath. And instead of saying, I am angry, say, anger is visiting me right now. It's a small shift in words, but a giant shift in perspective. I'm curious. Has there ever been a time when you were sure a feeling would last forever, but it didn't? If you feel comfortable, share it in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Sarah still has big emotions. She still feels deeply. But now, she moves through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that no storm, no matter how fierce, can stay in the sky forever. And maybe that's the lesson we all need to remember. Because once you see emotions for what they really are, just passing clouds, you stop chasing the sunny days and fearing the rainy ones. You just live. Principle 7. Emotional invincibility. Let me tell you about Michael. Michael used to take everything personally. A stranger cut him off in traffic, his whole day was ruined. A coworker made a sarcastic comment, he replayed it in his head all night. It wasn't just about what people said or did. It was the story he told himself afterward. They don't respect me. They're trying to hurt me. The more he reacted, the more exhausted he felt. One evening, he called his father, an old Navy veteran with a calm, steady voice. "Dad," Michael sighed, "people just keep getting under my skin." His father chuckled. "Son, nobody can get under your skin unless you open the door and let them in." At first, Michael didn't understand. "What do you mean?" he thought. "I can't control what people do." But then his father explained something that would change everything. Life is full of words, gestures, and actions you can't predict. You can't stop people from being rude or careless, but you get to decide how much of it you let inside your heart. That's where your real power is. It hit Michael like a wave. He had been handing over his peace of mind to every passing comment, every careless glance. It was like giving strangers the keys to his home and being surprised when they messed up the furniture. From that day, Michael started practicing something new. When someone said something hurtful, instead of reacting instantly, he paused, took a slow breath, and asked himself, "Is this worth my energy? Or am I about to let them rent space in my mind for free?" It wasn't easy. There were moments his old habits kicked in when he wanted to fire back, defend himself, prove a point. But slowly, he realized, the less he reacted, the less control others had over him. And something beautiful happened. The same things that used to shatter his mood now barely touched him. Buddhist wisdom says, "You are not harmed by what is said to you. You are harmed by the way you choose to carry it." Think about that. An insult is just sound waves in the air until you give it meaning. An angry gesture is just movement until you decide to make it personal. We often think strength is about fighting back, but true strength is a quiet kind of power. It's being able to stand in the middle of a storm and feel unshaken. This doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you choose your battles. You protect your inner world the way you'd protect your home. Imagine if every harsh word someone threw at you bounced off like rain on a jacket. Imagine if your peace of mind didn't depend on other people's moods. That's emotional invincibility. And it's not about being cold or detached, it's about knowing your value so deeply that no one else gets to define it for you. I want to ask you something. When was the last time someone's words ruined your day? What if, instead, you had simply smiled, walked away, and gone on with your life? Drop your answer in the comments. You might be surprised how many people feel the same way, and how freeing it can be to take your power back. Michael's life hasn't become perfect. People are still unpredictable. He still encounters bad drivers, rude strangers, and difficult coworkers. But now, he sees them for what they are, passing storms. And instead of standing out in the rain, he carries an umbrella of awareness. No one gets inside unless he lets them. No one gets to touch his peace without his permission. And that's a freedom worth protecting. Principles 8. Demand excellence from yourself. Show grace to others. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was the kind of person who double-checked everything. Her work emails were flawless. Her home was spotless. She held herself to the highest standards. And in many ways, it helped her succeed. But there was a hidden cost. Because Sarah expected so much from herself, she started expecting the same from everyone else. When a coworker missed a deadline, she'd stew in frustration. When her husband forgot to take out the trash, she'd sigh with disappointment. It wasn't that she wanted to be unkind. It was that her high standards had quietly turned into invisible rules for the people around her. One day, she was at lunch with her mentor, an elderly woman named Margaret. Margaret listened patiently as Sarah vented about a colleague's sloppy work. Then she smiled gently and said, "Sarah, excellence is a gift you give yourself. Grace is the gift you give others." At first, Sarah didn't get it. Margaret leaned forward. "You can choose to hold yourself to the highest bar, and you should. But the moment you demand others match your personal bar, you're setting yourself up for resentment. Everyone is walking their own path, carrying burdens you can't see." It was like someone had flipped a light switch in Sarah's mind. She realized she had been living in a constant loop, striving for perfection inside, while feeling let down by the imperfection outside. She had been chasing peace by controlling the world, instead of finding peace by mastering herself. From that day forward, she made a quiet promise. "I will expect excellence from me, not because the world demands it, but because it's who I choose to be. And I will be generous with others because I remember how often I've stumbled too." The change was almost immediate. Her interactions softened. She stopped snapping over small mistakes. She started asking, "How can I help?" instead of, "Why didn't you do this right?" And here's the beautiful part. The more grace she gave others, the more they rose to meet her with respect, not fear. Buddhist wisdom often reminds us, hold yourself like a strict teacher. Hold others like a loving friend. It's not about lowering your standards. It's about knowing those standards are your personal compass, not a weapon to measure everyone else. Think about it. If you walk through life expecting everyone to meet your personal level of discipline, you will always be disappointed. But if you walk through life expecting only yourself to live by that discipline, you will always have control over your happiness. I want to ask you, is there someone in your life you've been silently judging because they don't match your pace or precision? What would happen if, just for today, you offered them the grace you wish someone had given you? The last time you made a mistake? Tell me in the comments. Sometimes, the smallest shift in perspective can change the way we connect with the people we care about. Sarah still works hard. She still sets the bar high for herself. But now, when people fall short, she doesn't take it as a personal offense. She understands that her excellence is her responsibility, and their journey is theirs. You can be a mountain firm and strong in your own values, while still being a river, gentle and forgiving toward others. That balance, that's where real peace lives. Principles 9. Cherish self-care. I want to tell you about Michael. On paper, Michael had it all together. A good job, a family he loved, a reputation for always showing up when someone needed him. But here's the truth no one saw. He was running on empty. Michael believed that taking care of himself was selfish. So he kept saying yes to every request. Late nights at work, extra errands for friends, sacrificing sleep, skipping meals, ignoring the quiet voice inside that whispered, "You can't keep going like this." And one day, his body said what his mind wouldn't. He collapsed from exhaustion. At the hospital, the doctor asked him, "When was the last time you took a day just for yourself?" Michael couldn't remember. That moment was a wake-up call. Because here's the thing. Self-care isn't selfish. It's survival. We live in a culture that celebrates busyness, where rest is seen as laziness, and burning out is worn like a badge of honor. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Your mind, your body, your spirit, they are the tools through which you experience this life. If you neglect them, everything else begins to crumble. Michael started small. He began setting boundaries at work. He took short walks after dinner, feeling the evening breeze on his face. He turned off his phone an hour before bed and read books that made him feel alive again. And something beautiful happened. The more he cared for himself, the more present and patient he became with others. Self-care isn't just about spa days or vacations. It's in the small, consistent choices. Drinking water instead of another cup of coffee. Taking a deep breath before answering a stressful email. Saying no to one more commitment when you know your plate is already full. It's about creating space for the things that nourish you. Hobbies that light you up. Quiet moments that ground you. Practices that connect you to the present moment. Because when your mind is calm and your body is cared for, you stop living on autopilot. You start living with intention. Some people say, I don't have time for self-care. But here's the hard truth. If you don't make time now, your body will make time for you later, in ways you might not like. Think about this. When was the last time you did something just for you? Not for your boss, not for your family, but for your own soul? If it's been a while, maybe today is the day to start again. Let me know in the comments. What's one small thing you can do today to take care of yourself? Michael learned something that changed his life. Taking care of yourself isn't taking away from the people you love. It's making sure you can keep showing up for them, fully, joyfully, without resentment. You can't give your best if you're running on fumes. You can't be present for others if your mind is drowning in exhaustion. So here's the challenge. Treat self-care like oxygen. Not a luxury, not an afterthought. A necessity. Because when you breathe deeply, rest fully, and move gently through your days, you create a life where you're not just surviving. You're truly living. You deserve that life. Not someday. Today, Principles 10, the power of gratitude. I want you to meet Sarah. A few years ago, Sarah's life took a sharp turn. She lost her job. Her long-term relationship ended. And her health, well, it wasn't great either. She told me once, it felt like the universe was stacking bricks on my chest, one after another. Maybe you felt that way too. Like the weight just keeps piling on. One rainy afternoon, Sarah sat in her tiny apartment, staring at the bills on her kitchen table. The anxiety was so loud, she could barely think. And then, for no reason she could explain, she picked up a notebook and wrote down 3 things she was thankful for that day. They were small things. Her neighbor bringing over soup, the sound of rain against the window, and the fact that she still had a warm bed to sleep in. It wasn't magic. Her problems didn't vanish overnight, but something shifted inside her. She said, I realized, even in the middle of the mess, there was still something good. Here's what most people get wrong about gratitude. It's not about pretending life is perfect. It's about noticing what's still here, what's still working when life is far from perfect. In Buddhist teaching, there's this simple truth. Suffering is part of life, but suffering is not the whole of life. Gratitude is what helps us see the rest. Science agrees. Studies show that practicing gratitude lowers stress, improves sleep, and even helps your body recover faster from illness. Why? Because when you train your mind to look for what's good, you stop feeding the endless loop of fear and frustration. It's like standing in a dark room and realizing there's been a candle burning in the corner this whole time. Sarah started making it a daily practice. Every morning, before her coffee, she wrote down 3 things she was grateful for. Some days, it was easy sunlight through the blinds, a friend's text, the smell of fresh bread from the bakery downstairs. Other days, she had to dig deep. On those days, she wrote things like, I'm grateful this day will end, and I get to try again tomorrow. Here's the thing. Gratitude isn't just for when things are going well. Its real power shows up when life is hard. When the bills are overdue. When the relationship is falling apart. When you're tired, scared, and the future feels uncertain. That's when gratitude becomes an anchor. It doesn't erase the storm, but it gives you something solid to hold on to. Think about your own life right now. What's one thing, just one, you could be grateful for, even if everything else feels messy? Drop it in the comments. Because saying it out loud, it's like telling your brain, look here, there's light here. Sarah told me something I'll never forget. I used to think gratitude was for people whose lives were easy. Now, I know it's for people who want to live fully, no matter what life throws at them. And maybe that's the point. Gratitude doesn't just change what you see, it changes you. So tonight, before you close your eyes, try this. List 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. In fact, the smaller, the better. Feel the way your body softens just thinking about them. Because gratitude isn't just an emotion, it's a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And when it's strong, you realize you can face almost anything with a softer heart and a clearer mind. Gratitude won't remove all your struggles, but it will make sure your struggles don't remove you. Principles 11. The power of pausing before you react. Let me tell you about Daniel. One morning, he opened his email and saw a message from his boss. The subject line was just one word: urgent. Inside, a long paragraph accusing him of missing an important deadline. Thing is, Daniel had sent the file on time. It wasn't his mistake. His chest tightened. Fingers hovered over the keyboard. He started typing fast, defensive, sharp. The kind of reply that says, "I'm not wrong, you are." But then, he stopped. And for some reason, he just sat there, silent. That pause, just a few seconds, changed everything. Instead of hitting send, Daniel closed the email, stood up, and walked to the window. He took 3 slow breaths, noticing the sound of traffic outside, noticing the warmth of the coffee mug in his hand, and more importantly, noticing the storm of emotion inside his chest. In that tiny space between impulse and action, something opened up. By the time he sat back down, the heat had left his face. He rewrote the email. This time, it was calm, clear, and solution-focused. An hour later, his boss replied, "Thanks for clarifying. My mistake." Here's the truth most of us forget. We don't have to react the second we feel something. But our mind loves speed. It tells us, you have to defend yourself. You have to speak now. And that's when we say things we can't take back. Buddhist wisdom calls this mindfulness of the gap, the awareness that between what happens to us and what we do about it, there's always a small space. In that space, you have a choice. I've made this mistake myself. There were times I sent the angry text, raised my voice, slammed the door. And afterward, I thought, if I had just waited a moment, that moment can save a relationship. It can save your job. It can save you from becoming someone you don't want to be. Science actually backs this up. When we pause and take a breath before reacting, the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, calms down. And the prefrontal cortex, the part that makes wise decisions, turns on. In other words, a pause isn't weakness. It's strategy. So, how do we practice it? Start small. The next time you feel triggered, whether it's a rude driver, a blunt comment, or a disappointing text, literally stop. Put your feet on the ground. Inhale, exhale. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And what would happen if I waited before reacting? Sometimes you'll still choose to speak up immediately, but you'll be speaking from clarity, not from chaos. Think about it. How many arguments in your life could have ended differently if you had paused just 10 seconds? How many wounds could have been avoided? Drop your answer in the comments, because the truth is, we've all been there. Daniel told me later, that pause didn't just change the email, it changed me. And I think that's what this is really about. Life will keep throwing situations at you. Some unfair, some painful, some that make your blood boil. You can't control that. But you can control the space between. And that space, that's where your freedom lives. Next time you feel the rush to react, remember this. A pause isn't doing nothing. A pause is doing the most important thing. Choosing who you're going to be before the world chooses for you. That's the power of keeping still, just long enough to save yourself from yourself. Principles 12. Nurturing loving kindness. I want to tell you about someone I met a few years ago. Her name's Emily. She had every reason to be angry. Her business partner had betrayed her trust, taken money, and left her reputation in pieces. Every day, she woke up with that tight, heavy feeling in her chest, like carrying a stone that no one else could see. At first, she thought, if I just keep hating him, maybe I'll feel safer. But hate didn't protect her. It just built a prison inside her own heart. One day, her therapist gave her a strange assignment. Every morning, for 2 minutes, send him a silent wish for peace and happiness. Emily almost laughed. Why would I want him to be happy? He ruined my life. But that night, she couldn't stop thinking about it. What if just for her own sake she tried? The next morning, she sat on her couch, closed her eyes, and imagined him. She whispered inside her mind, "May you be free from suffering. May you find peace." At first, it felt fake, forced, like she was lying to herself. But she kept going day after day. And something unexpected happened. The stone in her chest began to shrink. Not because he deserved her kindness, but because she deserved her freedom. That's the quiet power of loving kindness. In Buddhist wisdom, it's called metta, a deep, genuine wish for all beings to be well, including yourself, and yes, even the people who make your life harder. Now, this isn't about letting them off the hook. It's not saying what you did is okay. It's saying, I won't let your actions keep poisoning my heart. We've all met people who carry old grudges like metals. They believe it keeps them strong. But the truth is, anger doesn't protect us. It only keeps the wound open. When you choose loving kindness, you're not pretending the hurt didn't happen. You're saying, I choose to live without carrying it every day. Here's something you can try tonight. Before you go to sleep, picture someone you care about deeply. Send them this silent wish. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Then picture someone neutral, maybe the cashier at your grocery store. Send them the same wish. And if you're ready, picture someone you've struggled with. It might feel impossible at first. That's okay. Your only job is to plant the seed. I've done this practice myself in times when I felt betrayed. At first, it was mechanical, just words. But over time, my heart softened. And when I saw that person again, I didn't feel that rush of heat or tension. I felt spacious, free. Imagine if more of us lived this way. Workplaces would feel lighter. Families would heal faster. And inside, we'd carry less weight. So I'm curious, who's the one person in your life right now you'd find hardest to send loving kindness to? Drop it in the comments, even if you just say, someone from my past. You never know, you might inspire someone else to try. Emily told me later, forgiving him didn't change what he did. It changed who I was becoming. That's the thing about loving kindness. It doesn't erase the past. It simply writes a different future. One where your peace isn't in someone else's hands. And in a world that will always give us reasons to close our hearts, maybe the most radical thing we can do is keep them open. Conclusion script. Mastering your emotions. You know, people often think that mastering your emotions means you stop feeling them altogether. Like you become this unshakable rock, untouched by anything. But that's not it. Not at all. It's not about becoming numb. It's about becoming awake. Awake enough to choose how you respond, instead of letting life push you around like a leaf in the wind. I think about my Uncle James. He worked in construction for 40 years. Tough guy, weathered skin, a laugh you could hear from down the street. But what I admired most wasn't his strength, it was his calm. One day, I saw a new worker drop an entire box of expensive tiles right in front of him. They shattered everywhere. Everyone froze, waiting for James to explode. But he just looked down at the mess, then back at the guy, and said, "Well, guess we're making a mosaic today." He bent down, started picking up the pieces, and the tension melted. Later, I asked him why he didn't get angry. He shrugged and said, "Getting mad wouldn't unbreak the tiles. Might as well save my blood pressure." That's what real mastery looks like. Not the absence of emotion, but the presence of choice. And choice comes from practice. When you work on these principles every single day, pausing before you react, nurturing compassion, letting go of the story your mind is clinging to, something shifts. You stop being yanked around by every little thing outside you. You walk through storms, and somehow your heart stays dry. Here's the truth that took me years to understand. Peace doesn't arrive when life finally stops throwing curveballs. It arrives when your mind learns how to stand steady no matter what's coming at you. That's when you realize the world can be chaotic, but you don't have to be. If you've ever met someone like that, someone whose calm feels like it fills the whole room, you know how rare it is. And maybe you've wondered, were they just born that way? Most of the time, no. They built it. Brick by brick, moment by moment, decision by decision. And so can you. So let me ask you, who in your life right now carries that kind of grounded presence? Or maybe, who would you love to see you become that person? If someone comes to mind, send them this video. Not because they need it, but because you'd like to walk this path together. Uncle James used to tell me, life will test you every single day, but if you can keep your center, you've already won. And I think that's true. Because in the end, your peace isn't about the noise outside. It's about the stillness you've built inside. This journey doesn't end here. Because every new day will bring you another chance to choose. Reaction or response, chaos or calm, fear or peace. And I can promise you, the more you choose peace, the more life starts to feel like it's choosing you back.